Miraculous Ladybug, Season 2, Episode 23, titled Frozer, intro- opens with our heroes rescuing a paragliding delivery man from certain doom. Why this took both of them is anyone's guess, but grabbing one of the roses that the man was delivering, Adrian takes this opportunity to propose to um, Ladybug that they should just, spend their time together from here on out, even going so far as to say he would disregard his, possibly revealing himself as his miraculous is about to time out. And we see the moment that a lot of people have been waiting for, where Adrian reveals himself to Ladybug and he goes on a tirade proposing what they should do for the rest of their lives together. Naturally, this was a dream sequence, or a fantasy, if you will. A bait and switch of all things, which I could literally hear people groaning in frustration the moment Adrian comes to his senses. As Ladybug is very, serious when she's in this form. She's very down to earth and rational and very selfless. But in fact, that's the truer nature of Marinette in and of itself. And that's the fun thing about both Marinette and Adrian. Adrian's true self is a little more goofy, a little more out there, a little more expressive because he spends all of his life just locked up and just unable to really just be true to who he really is. Whereas Marinette is just given so much freedom and all this good stuff. And a lot of people kind of see her as a bit of a, you know, I guess you could say a flake, more or less, because of the fact that she is secretly a superhero and she holds all of this responsibility. And it's because of something like that that she turns down Cat Noir, ultimately saying that that's not what they're supposed to do. They made a vow to never reveal themselves and their true forms. There's a greater meaning behind this, and she will not sacrifice this for him. And not to mention, she has feelings for someone else unknown to her, which just heightens a lot of the anger a lot of people have towards this pairing. You can only play the Sailor Moon tuxedo mask, love quadrangle or whatever, so long before people just throw their hands up in frustration. But we see Adrian going about his fencing practices, and for the most part, he's not doing too well. Specifically because ultimately he's going up against Kagame, whose whole thing is fencing. And when she confronts Adrian about the situation, he admits that he's not sure if he should continue to pursue this person he's interested in. And Kagame just says, hey, maybe you should change targets. Invest all your time and effort into someone who actually shows that she's appreciative of it. And he ultimately decides to turn his attention to Kagami, of all people, which a lot of people kind of speculated on when she was first introduced earlier on in the season. And when Marinette meets up with Adrian the very next day, he goes on about having this interest in this girl who, is funny enough. A lot of people had thought that Kagami and Marinette looked very similar, and we were going to have a lot of moments where they kind of were mistaken for each other. And we even see this in the fact that, when Adrian describes the person he's interested in, Marinette thinks that it's her, only to find out it's the Ice Queen, so to speak, as she calls her, Kagami. And this just takes Marinette aback. But ultimately, she kind of decides to say, maybe we should hang out. I can help you try to be more comfortable in pursuing this girl, and yada, yada, yada. Which, is her basically shooting herself in the foot on this. And when she ends up talking to all of her friends, they start going over how she could possibly get out of this and, hopefully show Adrian her interest in all of this and all this good stuff. Be a good friend. But ultimately, Marinette decides maybe it wasn't meant to be, with the fact that she's so scatterbrained around Adrian, the way she always acts towards him, and how some of the best moments she even has with Adrian is when she's a little more clear-headed and just treating him like a normal person and a friend. Maybe that's a sign that maybe we should only be friends. Naturally that feels like a complete inverse of the argument right there, showing that deep down, they have a bond there. If they could just get over their own personal baggages, maybe there could be something more, but that just doesn't seem to be in the cards for this season. Maybe next season. And naturally, everyone just starts bursting out arguing because they know that's a crock. And it's just like, no, there's obviously some chemistry between these two. They should just keep trying to get these two together. And Marinette walks out to kind of hit some alone time, and she ends up listening to Luca's music. You know, it took me a while to realize that they were actually on the Kofane's houseboat, which I'm just like, oh right, this is, of course they would be at Julica's place because it's very secluded, and her mom's always out doing this, that, and whatever, so they could just hang out there. Not to mention, we had this whole nother love interest that we hadn't really been touching upon. Because, it's the same thing that everyone thought the moment he showed up. Luca seems like a potential love interest for Marinette. And we get to see that kind of come into full swing with him just kind of, you know, helping Marinette out of her funk with his music. And she ultimately ends up inviting him along to go to the ice skating rink. And we end up finding out that at the ice skating rink that our principal character Philippe, the owner of the ice skating rink, is being told by the mayor that ultimately this place will be closed down for something else because not a lot of people really visit there that often. I mean, we've seen it here and there a few times, especially in the episode Anansi. We saw it briefly there, but not too many people visit. He doesn't have any real students or anything like that. So, he ultimately says, like, if you manage to get at least even one signature of a student signing up, I will forego repurposing the ice skating rink. And, he does that with the intention of having Philippe try to, get one of these kids here in order to join up. Meanwhile, Marinette just kind of gives Adrian a little bit of advice, but she just trips all over her words. And she ends up going off with Luca. And with Felipe just going about trying to convince them to sign up for his skating classes. But Luca and Marinette have these, moments of chemistry that show off that very much, if Adrian was not in the picture, they would be a very much closer item than anything else. This also builds upon my question of, who the other miraculous holders will ultimately be. Because it's very obvious we have enough characters to fill in the rest of the kind of zodiac of characters and all that good stuff. We've gotten our, two primary, the most of the other side characters. Now we just need to flesh out the rest of them, in the primary miraculous jewelry box. So I wonder if Luca will end up becoming a miraculous holder somewhere down the line as well. All signs point to yes, but we also have to note that he hasn't been akumatized yet, so I wonder what will be his breaking part further down the line. And as Marinette gets distracted by what's going on with Adrian and Kagami, she ends up crashing into the wall, with both Adrian and Luca coming to her aid, which gives her a moment of just not knowing who she prefers. She's had this long-standing crush on Adrian, but she also takes a fancy to Luca as well. Classic teen drama. Although this is interrupted by Felipe still coming in to try to convince them to sign up. However, Mr. Bourgeois comes in saying, hey, you can't just keep forcing this upon them. They're not interested. You're done, which is pretty harsh. We just see this continuing trend of the bourgeois family just creating all these akumatized people with their rather insincere way of going about things. Because, Mr. Bourgeois states that ultimately he did this for Chloe. So Chloe, even though she's become a more fleshed out character, is still causing Akuma to be formed, even in a non confrontational manner, even when she's not around. And we even have this very interesting moment where Kagame just comes up to Marinette to help her up and says it's just like, you know, you only fell because you're so uncoordinated, which, ultimately shows that, she knows that Marinette has an interest in Adrian, that Adrian has some kind of connection to Marinette, you know, whether or not she will become a greater antagonist in the future towards this whole pairing, it's very left up in the air because you don't really know where Kagame's feelings lie in regards to this. It's obvious she likes Adrian, but to what degree is yet to be shown. And as Marinette ultimately tells Luca that she just needs the time. She's a little thrown off balance. She runs up to the bathroom, with Adrian following behind to see if she is unharmed. And as Felipe sits in despair, he becomes a target for Hawkmoth. And as Marinette talks to Tiki about the whole situation, Adrian comes to the bathroom door in order to try to comfort her and see what's up. With even Plag coming out to, call him out on the fact that it's just like, dude, first, Ladybug, then Kagami, and now Marinette. It's just like, dude, make up your mind about who you care about. With Adrian just playing it off, it's just like, oh no, we're just friends. Which is obviously just utter BS. He obviously has an interest in Marinette because the degree of which he was trying to help and look out for Marinette during their moment in the skating ring just shows that he has something stronger going on for Marinette. However, it's interrupted by with the entire ice skating rink becoming encased in ice. Marinette realizes that this is a time for one of the special macaroons Master Fu made, which causes Tiki to become icicle. Tiki Suckle? I don't remember the actual name for this transformation for her, but it's just ice form Tiki, which creates Skater, Ladybug, and all that good stuff. Adrian also goes through with this, creating Plag's ice form, and he becomes the Skater Cat Noir. And as the newly christened Frozer goes wreaking havoc across Paris, freezing the city and the people, and basically the entirety of Paris in no time flat. Like, that is a great deal of power. He just froze everything over in, like, all of what, 20 minutes max? However, when Ladybug and Cat Noir meet up, Cat Noir says that he'll do things his way, saying that ultimately, despite the fact that Ladybug wants to trap Frozer, he says they should stalk the prey, observe her, and get a feel for what he's capable of, with Cat Noir running off to do things by himself. And as Ladybug searches for Frozer, she becomes prey for him herself. However, Cat Noir sees this and, helps get Ladybug out of the way of Frozer's attacks. And as they continue to chase him down, they kind of reconcile to a certain degree about, how they've been acting. While Cat Noir is being a little bit bullheaded about the whole situation, uh, well, honestly, there's no real fault on Marinette's side of things. Cat Noir got all caught up in something that they had already talked about. However, that's just kind of how it can be sometimes when you have deep feelings for someone. It's hard to let it go, especially if you have to see them on a constant basis. But I think Cat Noir's ultimate interest in Ladybug is the fact that she always seems to have things together. She always seems to be so serious minded, and she just seems very confident in everything that she does. And Adrian just doesn't see himself like that. Oh, Adrian, if only you knew the truth. After they reconcile, they speak about the fact that, both of them were right to a certain degree. Their best option was to observe Frozer first and then set a trap for him based on what they know. And they do just that, with Ladybug bringing out her lucky charm, which is a bag of salt which can melt ice. And they proceed to melt a truck and set up a trap, with Marinette acting as the bait, and as Frozer chases her through the city, which with a few very good um, scenes through here. I had seen the animatic for some of these scenes with them jumping through the car door, with this chase going on. That was just very lovely to see. Great animation on the team's part, nice choreography, the works. And they managed to, get him to lose his footing using a truck ladder, and Cat Noir uses his cataclysm in order to destroy the Akuma's hiding place. And they manage to, defeat him and set things back to rights. Adrian also takes this opportunity to advertise Felipe's ice skating rink, hopefully to bring in new people. And despite the fact that Kagami says he's still, you know, being forced to do things for others, Adrian simply says he did this because he wanted to help Felipe. He wanted to look out for him, do something nice, and that he just, ultimately decided he doesn't want to give up on this person he has feelings for, with the hopes that one day something more will come out of it. With Kagame also kind of giving this cryptic message that, you know, one day you'll understand who you truly are interested in, and just saying that she'll be there as soon as he just comes to his senses and learns that, there's more to her than what he's just giving up. And, Luca ultimately offers to escort Marinette home, but he realizes the, passing glances that Marinette keeps giving Adrian. And, being the honestly good guy that he is just like, hey, go chase him down. Tell him how you really feel. Talk to him. And, he just kind of lets her go, which I'm like, dude, you are a better guy than me. Like, you're a better guy than most, because, man, that's a hard thing to do. A hard way of just, giving up, more or less. Although I doubt this is the last we'll see of this little love triangle, quadrangle, whatever we have going on here. And as Marinette catches up to Adrian's car, she ends up just spilling her heart, and he ultimately says like, hey, I love you and all this good stuff. And naturally Marinette goes off on this delusion about them getting married and having all these animals, only for it to be yet another fantasy, which is such a low blow at this point. It's one thing to use that once, but it's another thing to just have that towards the end as well. Just, I was not happy about that. But on the other hand, it at least shows that they have a very similar mindset, despite how they both act in certain given situations. With Marinette brushing it off and just saying that they should hang out more often, which Adrian agrees to. Uh, and we end our episode with Felipe having his ice skating rink get plenty of new students. Marinette, lamenting the fact that yet again she has agreed to hang out with Adrian just as friends, and Adrian with a lot of things to kind of process. Both of them, honestly, between both Luca and Kagami. Um, Overall, a good episode, a good solid episode. It sucks that we got this bait and switch from anyone who saw the trailer for this half of the season. Just kind of got messed with, because it's just like, oh, Cat Noir reveals he's actually Adrian Agreste. oh, you can't miss this episode, only for it to just be like, it was a fantasy sequence. Who would have thought? Of course it was. Of course it had to be a fantasy sequence. God forbid we actually get some solid forward momentum here with their relationship. On the other hand, I'm glad that we've gotten so many moments of, various miraculous holders coming to be. It just sucks that they don't really get to hold on to their miraculous. It's like, you think they would have proven themselves enough as is, you know, but I guess there's a greater meaning behind all of that. We'll just have to wait and see further down the line as the season is coming to a close. The third season is already in the works, with the fourth and fifth season having been announced. So keep an eye out for what we'll see later down the line. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. Leave me a like if you liked what I had to say about this episode, or even a dislike if you didn't, and subscribe for more Miraculous Ladybug. Stay chill, my friends.